mshaelezewa vile mwananchi angetaka. And today, as we give our response to the budget, it is noteworthy that the expenditure statement has not been revealed to Kenyans or laid before the House. All we have is taxation measures. The expenditure statement, I bet they will be bringing it or laying it on the floor of the House when reading the budget. That is contrary to the law. Both taxation measures, that is ways and means, and expenditure should be laid side by side for Kenyans to have enough time for public participation and to know exactly that tax you're being taxed, what is it going to do for you. Now we are commenting with a blindfold, following on, mainly relying on last year's expenditure statements. A PLP Martha Karua budget would be people-centered. We once again stand at a critical moment in our national calendar, the budget season, which it should be a season of hope, where we expect the government of the day to let the citizens know how they are going to improve service delivery, what they are going to do to build a more prosperous future for all, and how to tackle the daily problems, some of which have been mentioned here. But this is not the case with the Kenya Kwanza administration, whereas the budget statement should be a declaration of national priorities and a roadmap to shared prosperity. The Kenya Kwanza administration budget season has become a season of anxiety, uncertainty, and hardship. People anticipate pain that is going to be inflicted during this season. Instead of hope, we anticipate new taxes, and we are not wrong. Instead of relief, more pain. Instead of accountability, we witness more waste, corruption, and misplaced priorities. While hard-working citizens struggle with rising costs of food, fuel, and healthcare, housing, and education, government continues to expand its appetite for taxation without demonstrating corresponding improvements in service delivery. Kenyans are paying more, but they are receiving less. The social contract between citizens and government is being steadily eroded. It's as if the government exists to serve the needs or wants of a select few and not the needs of the majority. Our country continues to grapple with growing public dissatisfaction, particularly among young people, who have repeatedly demanded accountability, transparency, and economic justice. We witnessed tragic loss of life during the Gen Z protests in 2024, tensions surrounding their commemoration in 2025, and more deaths. Yes, more deaths. And even more deaths in events associated with Sabasaba. This reminds us a simple truth. Violence cannot be an answer to legitimate demands of accountability. Intimidation cannot extinguish the aspirations of a generation, and force can never be a substitute for good governance. As the leader of People's Liberation Party, I and the party stand in solidarity with the youth and all Kenyan citizens who demand that government listens to them, serves them, and above all, respects the Constitution. Their demands are not unreasonable. These demands of accountability, of dignity, and of opportunity cannot be said to be unreasonable. They are also demanding a leadership with integrity, a leadership that they can trust. The fundamental challenge facing us today is not lack of resources. We are collecting taxes that can give us the services we deserve. What we lack is physical discipline, is leadership that can be trusted, is leadership that has integrity. We are suffering, as I've said, indiscipline in spending. We suffer from corruption, from waste, and from poor priorities. The Auditor General has flagged out that over 304 billion remain trapped in stalled projects across the country. These are our taxes put to waste. A PLP Mother Karua budget would prioritize audit of all these projects and their completion before embarking on new projects. We must make all the monies invested work for us. They have consumed public resources but have failed to deliver value. This is not evidence of insufficient revenue, it is evidence of poor leadership. Meanwhile, billions continue to be spent on luxury, excessive travel, that one we all know, political patronage. We have seen money being dished out in State House and in other venues, and other non-priority expenditures, while critical sectors such as education and healthcare remain underfunded. The problem is not lack of money. It is absence of accountability. A government that cannot account for existing resources has no moral authority to demand higher taxation. So from us, we would not increase the budget flow to the almost 5 trillion budget Kenya Kwanza is having, and boasting happily that this is the largest budget ever. It's also the budget with the largest deficit ever. A serious country tries to do a balanced budget. We should try as much as possible to spend what we raise. Therefore, a PLP Martha Karua budget would let the figures of last year, which is just short of 4 trillion, remain. In the meantime, we would follow a different path. We would have a budget designed for the people, not politicians and their cronies. A budget that places the people and their needs at the center of economic decision making. A budget guided by one simple principle. A government exists to serve the people, not the other way around. Kenya Kwanza has gotten it wrong. They think that we exist to raise money for their wasteful spending and to pander to their dreams of luxury. We would invest in education and healthcare because no nation can prosper while neglecting human capital. Health and education are not expenditures, simply they are investments in national development. Under my administration, we would significantly increase funding for these critical sectors in order to restore adequate capitation to schools, improve learning conditions in public institutions, improve infrastructure, support teachers, expand access to affordable healthcare, ultimately to universal access to healthcare, equip public hospitals with modern facilities and technology, improve remuneration and working conditions of health workers, eliminate corruption and cartel-driven leakages in the health sector and across government. We will restore confidence in public healthcare and ensure that quality treatment is not a privilege reserved for the wealthy. We would reduce the national health insurance contribution to 500 shillings per family while improving efficiency, transparency, and service delivery. Healthcare must be accessible and as soon as practically possible, universally accessible to all. Revitalizing agriculture would be another priority. It remains the backbone of our economy, yet our farmers continue to struggle despite feeding the nation. Our rescue budget would allocate 285 billion towards agricultural support and food security initiatives. These investments would focus on affordable, not fake, fertilizer, quality seeds, irrigation infrastructure, agricultural extension services which are lacking, climate smart farming, strategic grain reserves, cooperatives, value addition and agro processing. This would also create jobs. We would strengthen local production and protect Kenyan farmers from unfair imports that enrich cartels while impoverishing our farmers. You know about maize, about sugar, even when we still have stocks of sugar, about rice and many other things. The farmer must once again become central to Kenya's economic transformation. We need infrastructure that serves the economy. We must, and our infrastructure spending must create productivity. It must connect markets. You have heard Kenyans complaining of roads. It must support industry. You have heard industry mentioned. It must improve lives. Our administration will prioritize completion of ongoing projects before launching new ones. We've already said that. We will reject politically motivated prestige projects that consume billions while delivering little value to Kenyans. You can almost read housing. William Ruto's pet project of housing. I don't know how many it serves. It's white elephants everywhere. Every shilling invested must produce measurable economic and social returns. Fiscal discipline and responsible governance. Our budget would require total discipline. Under my administration, non-essential government expenditure will be reduced by at least 60%, and some will altogether be scrapped. Luxury spending, excessive travel, unnecessary entertainment costs will be curtailed. All stored projects will be audited and prioritized. We've already said that. Public officers will be held personally accountable for unauthorized expenditure. Anti-corruption institutions will be strengthened to ensure that the wheels of justice roll and economic crimes are swiftly prosecuted and decisively so. We will also reduce excessive domestic borrowing that crowds out business and deprives entrepreneurs of access to affordable credit. By the way, local borrowing has now gone beyond 1.1 trillion. No wonder then that businesses are not able to borrow, and if they do, they borrow at very high interest rates because government borrows at astronomical rates. The government must stop competing with its own citizens for financing. Supporting business growth and job creation. Businesses create jobs. Businesses generate wealth. Businesses expand the tax base, literally grow the economy. Yet many enterprises are today struggling because government owes them money. The Controller of Budget reports 525 billion in pending bills. These unpaid obligations, unpaid by government, have crippled thousands of businesses, destroyed countless jobs, and even caused deaths. You have heard of people committing suicide due to frustration. My administration will audit and settle legitimate pending bills as a matter of urgency. It's a moral obligation. We will also maintain predictable and reasonable taxation. One of the principles of taxation is fairness. You cannot tax people what they cannot afford to pay, or what disempowers them from putting food on their tables or doing other critical jobs for their families. We will implement a strong Buy Kenya, Build Kenya policy to ensure that we trade with our SMEs, with our local businesses, as one way of supporting them. Simple things like even furniture in government offices would provide countless opportunities. And we believe that it's SMEs who will give us quick answers to the more needed jobs. There are 7.4 SMEs in Kenya. If they were each to expand by just one job, it's over 7 million jobs. It makes sense to invest in our SMEs, ensure that there is fair taxation, access to credit, and expand their opportunities by partnering them in training, promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. Also introduce a 2-year tax holiday for youth-led startups. A growing economy generates more revenue than excessive taxation. By the way, no country has ever taxed its way to prosperity. You actually kill businesses and cause the economy to stagnate when you overtax the people. Relief for workers and families. Kenya workers deserve relief. Families deserve breathing space. That is why I would abolish the housing levy forthwith. The levy has become an additional burden on workers without delivering commensurate benefits to the majority of contributors. Government must stop viewing citizens as an endless source of revenue. Before asking Kenyans to pay more, let us see improved services and responsible management of the taxes we collect to empower the youth. I will begin by stating that our youth are not a problem to be managed. They are the greatest national asset or resource that belongs to the nation, and my administration would invest in their education and skills development, vocational training, sports, technology, innovation, the creative economy, and digital entrepreneurship. We would not increase taxation on mobile money transfer, internet services, digital platforms, and online enterprises. It is punitive to follow the jobless youth to the sites where they are creating something to sustain themselves with while offering them nothing. We need to support them, and they will in turn help grow the economy. Innovation should be encouraged, not punished. Creativity should be rewarded, not punished. And entrepreneurship should be supported and not punished. And by the way, taxing the mobile money platforms is also punishing the diaspora who so faithfully invest in their country, because ultimately the raised taxation goes to the consumer. A clear choice. Fellow Kenyans, the choice before our country is becoming increasingly clear. Our rescue budget offers fair taxation, fiscal discipline, better healthcare, better education, support for farmers, growth for businesses, jobs for youth, opportunity for all. The Kenya Kwanza budget offers the pain of more taxation, more borrowing, more waste, more hardship, more inequality, and more benefits to the ruling elite. I had the privilege of serving in Kibaki's administration, a government that, especially during the first term, had total fiscal discipline. The economy had not grown to where we were. But during the first term, that government was able to improve services, relying on the taxation from Kenyans. So we are telling you that it is. Experience has taught us that good leadership matters, sound economic management matters, integrity matters. Suffering facing Kenyans today, the suffering that is facing our nation today is not inevitable. It's not our destination. Things can change. It is the consequence of poor policy and poor choices in leadership. What leadership has created, better leadership can correct. In other words, the pain created by Kenya Kwanza can be corrected by a better government. Together we can build a Kenya that rewards hard work, protects opportunity, empowers youth, supports farmers, strengthens businesses, and restores dignity to public office. Pamoja tunaweza kukomboa uchumi wetu. Tunaweza kurudisha tumaini kwa kila mmoja wetu. Chaguo ni letu, tuungane, tujikomboe.